to the Purple Pride podcast. It's Triple P with.
Long distance AAA.
Yep, sure is. And it's Mila here. Hopefully everybody's doing good. I'm doing good because, K-State's number 25 in the country, but.
Undefeated, number 25 in the country, about to open up Big 12 play. But before we get into Big 12 play, you want to hit them with the EMAW EVAL for the Nevada game?
Yep. So if you're new here, we do the EMAW EVAL after every game. E stands for the event that changed the game. M is going to be your MVP. A is going to be the audible. And W is going to be what went right and what went wrong. So why don't you hit him with the E first?
Yeah, so I think it's our favorite player, the name we can never say, Daniel Imatorbhebhe. I think that's how you say it. I've been practicing his name.
I know.
But
you put in the work on that one.
Yeah, I do what I can. It's only right because, I think that was the event that, kind of changed the game here. You're going up against a Nevada team that was probably expecting you to be run heavy, right, and run oriented. So second play of the game, you hit them over the top for a huge 68-yard passing game. And I think that set the tone that, hey, Nevada, you're not going to be able to cheat up on the line, right? Your safeties aren't going to be able to crash down expecting run every time, because if you do this, we're going to hit you over the top with our 6'4", 6'5" tight end for a big chunk of yards. And I think that right there just freed up those running lanes, so you couldn't stack the line against Deuce or Irvin or anybody like that. So I think that was huge, and then Nevada had to make a choice after that. It's like, hey, do we want to live by giving up these big plays, or do we want to die by giving up 5 yards of pop on the run play? They had to pick their poison at that point, because if they tried to cheat and stop the run game, they're going to get beat over the top. If they were going to get beat over, if they wanted to stop the big passing game, they were going to get beat with chunk plays from our run game and our great offensive line. So I think that right there was the event that changed the game, because it set the tone early that, hey, don't worry about the Howard of last game. He's ready. Right. He got first-team reps. He can kill you over the top if you let him. And that was huge, because it showed that we weren't afraid to pass the ball. And once again, mess with our offensive coordinator now working with our receivers, working with our passing game, once again, provided dividends early for a K-State game.
All right, I'll hit him with the M, the MVP. I think you and I were both in agreement on this, that it would be the offensive line here. Wow, did they show up.
Put in work.
269 yards rushing and 0 sacks given up. That is fantastic. I mean, what you saw in the fourth was they really beat up Nevada throughout the game, and in the fourth quarter it showed really bad.
Yeah, you kind of wonder, hey, why did it take K-State till the fourth quarter to score 20 some odd points? Well, it's because Nevada was beat up by then.
It was a long game, chestnut checkers.
It was a long game. I mean, you get those big boys hitting you repeatedly over and over. The fight, they didn't have the fight left in them. You continue to pound the stone, if you will, and you basically got pounded into submission.
Get better every minute.
Absolutely. So that was great to see.
All right. Why don't you hit us with the A, the audible?
So I thought this was an interesting move. The audible of the game, I think bringing Lewis in for a couple possessions, couple drives at quarterback. I think that was big. You did it in the first half. And I think, one, it showed Nevada something that they weren't expecting. They had no game film on Lewis. They had no idea what to expect. Is this guy dynamic with his arm? Is this guy dynamic with his legs? I have no idea what is about to happen. So you kind of cheated for 2 scoring possessions right there, right? Catching that defense off guard. So I think that was huge. And I think I want to say myself, I think this was a sneak move for Big 12 conference play, right? I think it's hey, I know you're expecting just Howard, but we have another trick up our sleeves, and we're going to make you spend more time preparing for Lewis at QB, because potentially he might play a lot, right? He might be the hot hand at one point, or we'll put him in for a possession and you won't know what to expect. But you're not.
Or maybe Skylar might be back.
Or maybe Skylar might be back.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to focus in on one QB. You're going to have to prepare for multiple QBs because you don't know what's coming. And just the one possession alone, let alone 2, made it so now he has to be on on the scout paperwork for Oklahoma State. So I think that was big. And remember, you lost the last 2 games to Oklahoma State. So any extra you can give them to prepare for is huge.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of homework there. All right, so let's split up that dub. I'll take what went right because this one is near and dear to me. So what went right, Mr. Deuce Vaughn. It's interesting to me that he continuously gets compared to Darren Sproles, which rightly so. Darren Sproles is basically K-State royalty, had an illustrious NFL career, so it's a great comparison to have. But the funny thing about this now is that he's actually reached 1,000 rushing yards faster than Darren Sproles. That's wild to me. So obviously, the sky's the limit, and I think that Deuce Vaughn is going to get there.
And I mean, if you're going to get compared to somebody in K-State history, I mean, Darren Sproles ain't a bad guy to be compared to.
Right.
So, Super Bowl ring, top 5 Heisman voter, double-digit career in the NFL, just an all-around terrific athlete. So
I mean, really, the only bad he did was go play for Philadelphia, but I won't hold him again. I won't hold it against him.
Yeah, I don't think that was by choice necessarily, but it seemed to work out for him with the ring. So what went wrong? I'm going to hit it with the third quarter offense. Once again, coming out of the half and kind of sputtering, and we actually kind of sputtered on defense too out the third, right? We kind of gave up a score. It took a little bit for our offense to get going in the third quarter once again, and it was one of those where like Nevada adjusted, and we had to adjust to their adjustment, right? And it's how do you get ahead of that? How do you make it to where Nevada or OK State is a team that adjusts to your adjustment, right? Like, so it's either we're not seeing something at halftime tight in that third quarter, but how do we fix that? Because as we enter conference play, this is something that we're going to have to fix, because there's going to be teams like OK State, like OU, like Iowa State that are coming up to where we can't be giving up free possessions. And, you think of that third quarter, I think of that third quarter as free possessions given up on defense and free possessions wasted on offense. So I think that's one thing that the team probably really wants to hone in on is how do you come out hot in the third quarter?
Mm-hmm. So, all right, so that was our EMAW eval. Let's go to our keys of the game. So your number 25 Kansas State Wildcats will be taking on the undefeated Oklahoma State Cowboys. They say go Pokes. I'm more like, slow Pokes.
But let me set the stage for this game, right? So, you're going up against the OK State team that probably has just as impressive as one as you do over Stanford. They beat Boise State in Boise. So I would rank that up there with a very impressive Stanford win. You're also having a team in OK State that is basically the Spider-Man meme. Like, it's you pointing at you, right? Yeah. You have a quarterback in OK State that struggles to throw the ball. And while I do, think Howard's going to have a good game, the criticism of him is that he struggles to throw the ball. You have a team that loves to run in OK State. Oh, look, you have a team in Kansas State that also loves to run the ball. Mm-hmm. So it's who's the real Spider-Man? Who's the real team, right? Is it OK State or is it you? Who does it better? Who's the authentic version and who's just the knockoff? And if we know anything about Oklahoma, they're a knockoff of everybody, right? The state is a knockoff of Texas.
They're like the crappy extension of Texas, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, so, that's the thing is like, which team is the authentic version? And that's what I'm very curious to see. Let's kind of go into those keys to the game. But, you know what we forgot to say? Can I just ask you a few questions about that Nevada game and you just tell me who called what?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, if you listen to a Purple Pride podcast, you might have heard this, you might know the answer, but I'm going to ask you a question. You tell me who called it, okay?
Okay.
Over 200 yards rushing for K-State.
I think you heard that on the Purple Pride podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. Mm-hmm. Nevada's going to try at least a trick play.
Heard that one on the Purple Pride podcast too.
The interception streak will continue.
Saw it on Triple P.
Howard will be fine, no turnovers.
Saw it on Triple P.
And K-State was going to win that game.
Purple Pride podcast.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying this is why you listen. And as we get into the keys for OK State, maybe you tune up, listen, share with a friend.
There's a reason there's a Kansas State degree up there, just so y'all know.
Wait, where's mine?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Did you earn it? I don't have it.
Oh, no.
That
I must find this.
Yikes. But anyways, all right, keys to the game. All right, so the last two times that K-State played Okie State, we did not do well. We lost, in fact. And a lot of that, one of the keys that we're really going to have to look for here is that they're going to want to run more than they're going to want to pass. So that means defense. You see the run, stop the run. Passing, force them to pass, because I'm not really that confident in that quarterback.
I think that's a great point, right? You look at the last two times, we played it, and they just ran through us. They absolutely did. And I think that's where you talk about this defense, right? Where we switched to that 3-3-5. And while that is great against the passing game, what does that do for you defensively, right? You're kind of taking one of your frontline linemen off. So this is where that key to the game comes in handy. Expect a little 4-3 to start the game, but if I was a betting man, which I think since I called a couple things, I might be a little bit of a betting man.
I feel like you're not putting any money to these things. Put the money on them. Support my Amazon habit. Let's go.
I think I need to do that. But if I'm a betting man, I'm going to guess that K-State's probably still going to run predominantly that 3-3-5 defense. But they're going to do what's called gap blitzing. Okay. So traditionally a blitz is what? To the quarterback, right? You send someone going in hot to the quarterback, either outside, inside, depending on what blitz you're doing. You can do a delayed blitz, which is, you do a second or two pause, and then you go through the quarterback. But I think what K-State's going to do is gap blitzing, right? They're going to try to make Oklahoma State think that gap is open, whatever gap it is, whatever gap they feel strong about. And then they're going to blitz that linebacker to that gap, hoping to meet that running back at the hole, right? And if the running back's there, fantastic, right? They blow up the play. If it's not, then you just continue on to the quarterback. But I strongly think you'll see quite a few gap blitzes in this game. So don't be confused if you're like, hey, that blitzer didn't even go to the quarterback. What the hell is going on here? I think this defense is going to try to disguise that 3-3-5 and sneak in a little 4-3 defense by doing gap blitzes. So it might start as that 3-3-5, but because of what you're doing with that gap blitzing, maybe it ends up at more of a 4-3 to where you have those 4 down linemen. So I would say watch that. And with that, I would say if you keep OK State under 150 yards rushing, you win this game. You absolutely win this game if OK State is under 150. That means you held their run game in check and you forced their quarterback to try to win that game, who's struggled throwing the ball the last few years, especially this year. You keep them under 200, it's a dogfight. Anything more than that, I can't see K-State winning.
Okay. Well, speaking of keeping people at bay and under certain numbers, the next key to the game is going to be to make sure that K-State gets above 14 points. If we're over 14 points, we're winning that game. We're going to cause OSU to get out of their comfort zone, and I don't really think that they're going to want to throw the ball. I don't think that that's really in their wheelhouse per se. So definitely be looking for that too.
Yeah, so at any point in this game, if K-State goes up 14 or more, I absolutely agree, right? That's why 14 is that magic number. 14 or more, you get that margin that takes Oklahoma State out of what they want to do, running the ball, and that forces Spencer Saunders, their quarterback, to have to try to win the game. And if we see anything from him this year, is he hasn't quite shown he's capable of doing it yet. So 14, get up 14 at some point in this game and force them to start throwing the ball. So I'm going to hit you with the next key to the game. So now now we're talking 150 on the K-State side, right? We're talking about something that Howard hasn't done at all this year. But I think if K-State wants to win this game, one number that you really need to look at is 150 plus in the passing game. The last 2 times K-State has played OK State, they have not been able to cross that 150 mark in the passing game. Look at the receivers that you have: Brooks, Knowles, Daniel Imatorbhebhe, right? These are 3 people.
You really worked on that name.
I tried. And I even got my Dirk 3 up. These are 3 people that you cannot, I repeat, you cannot guard one-on-one in man coverage. You can't. They are mismatches of mismatches, right? You can do bubble screens with Brooks or Knowles. I would say, each of them can also be your deep play guy. Daniel can just destroy the middle of the field if you want him to. Heck, he can jump over anybody. No one can guard him one-on-one. So you have to take advantage of this, especially because Oklahoma loves to try to run man. And with those 3 weapons that you have, not to mention Deuce Vaughn in the passing game coming out the backfield, you cannot allow this game to go without you attacking them, because their pass defense is very weak. They might have a good run D, but that pass D is very vulnerable, especially when you talk about the man coverage to those 4 weapons that you have. So that's why 150 in that passing game is key. It's absolutely key. And I'm putting money that they will pass 150 in that passing game. I know Howard hasn't touched it this year. We haven't touched it the last 2 times we played OK State. But remember, Mess is with the wide receivers coaching them, and he's the guy who controls what plays are run. It's going to happen.
Yep. And last but not least, our last key to the game is going to be, I don't know if it's necessarily key, but it's more something to watch for in a bat mask. It's going to be watching for special teams use. So they have not made their star appearance yet. Granted, maybe they haven't had to, but I believe and I predict that this is going to be the game where special teams use shows up. You're looking at things like punt returns, which I think is going to be huge for us in this game. You're going to be looking at blocked kicks, which historically we're not really that big on it, but definitely, something to look for. Just anything special teams, I think that we're there.
Whenever you talk about teams that love to run the ball, whenever you talk about teams that have very good defenses, this is where special teams makes the difference, right? Because like you mentioned, there's probably going to be a lot of punts in this game. So which team can give their offense better starting field position, right? You're talking about 2 quarterbacks that struggle, right? Who gets the shorter field? Who can go 30 yards and be in field goal range, right? Who can maybe luckily only go 25 yards and be able to kick a field goal, get those valuable points in this game, right? So that's why special teams, you have to show up. They have to set K-State up for success. The shorter the field, the better starting field position, especially when teams are pointing at each other like Spider-Man because they're the same damn team. It's huge in this game. So let me talk about Vegas real quick. They got OK State favored by 6 in this game. 6 points in this game. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. I called Stanford. I called Nevada. I'm calling over 5.5 wins for K-State. So far, I've been right about everything. If you're getting 6 points on K-State, take the damn bet. Oklahoma State struggled against Tulsa. They struggled against Boise. And they are an offense that can't throw the ball that predominantly runs. And when you are a team that runs the ball, guess what? Even if you're great, every game is close. Every single game is close because you limit the number of possessions, which means you limit the number of scores. So for those reasons, bet K-State, take those damn points.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can send your premature thank yous to @I35SportsCXN on Twitter. And to wrap it up, we will see y'all at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. K-State versus Okie State. Let's go State.
We out. See you guys.